Alright, let's see what the internet thinks about the PlayStation 5 Pro.
$700 with no vertical stand and disk drive is insane. €800 in Europe without a fucking disk drive is crazy. Play has no limits. Price has no limits. Sony $700 without a disk drive is diabolical. Bold decision by Sony, leaving the comment section enabled after announcing with that price point. €800 for background detail in a game is insanity. €800 in Europe without a fucking disk drive is crazy. That's too generous. Should have sold the controller separately too. Sony, stand is sold separately. Apple, I am so proud of you. I'm shocked that the controller and the power cord aren't sold separately at this point. You all lost your minds. Sony trying to make us pay for Concord development. £700 with no disk drive? You can f*** off at that price. €800 and no disk drive is insanity after insanity. €800 without disk drive. Ridiculous. I think they're crazy. I don't even think the scalpers are gonna jump on this one. This has Sony E3 2006 written all over it. No disk drive and £700? F off. £700? F off. The first half of that presentation was them shitting on the PS5. It's bonkers. Trying real hard to see the difference between PS5 and PS5 Pro graphics. I'm sorry. Anyone buying a PS5 Pro is an idiot. PS5 Pro, $700. Nintendo Switch, it's called the PS5 Pro because you're probably not gonna buy it. Play has no limits. It fucking doesn't, it's $700. The PS5 Pro costs $914 in the UK. PlayStation can f*** right off now. PS5 Pro, $700. Nintendo Switch, $700 for a PS5 Pro. Are they out of their fucking minds? Just in, Astrobot's reaction after being informed of PS5 Pro's $700 price point. PS5 Pro.
Yep. Tilted. Tilted is probably the word I would use. So it's been a few days since the PlayStation 5 Pro was announced, and the general consensus around the internet is leaning more into the negatives. I mean, take one look at the like to dislike ratio on the announcement video on the PlayStation YouTube channel, and that gives you a pretty good idea as to how people are currently feeling. The major sticking points as to why this is for one, the price being just ludicrous. Number two, the lack of a disk drive and the fact that you have to spend an additional $80 US if you want to be able to use your collection of physical games. And number three, separate stand for what is meant to be a premium product. Why is the stand not included? That's another additional $30, $40 US on top of the already insane price. There's a few things here that I definitely want to talk about now that it has been a few days so we know a little bit more about this product. I think there are a lot of issues towards the bigger picture, not just this product as a whole, but for the future of gaming, and a couple of things that the Pro kind of tells us about the future of gaming. First of all though, just talking about this product, is it worth it? That's a very subjective kind of question that really comes down to the sort of person that's looking at purchasing something like this. What we know is basically the PlayStation 5 Pro is aiming to deliver more gaming experiences for both fidelity and performance modes to be combined. So this pretty much means that 4K 60 is the target. Now it's important to keep in mind that that doesn't necessarily mean that every single game that you're going to be playing on the Pro is going to deliver 4K 60. There's already been a ton of hands-on impression videos, and while yes, they did test out a large amount of games that were running at 60 frames at about 4K, it has been confirmed that unless Sony actually go out of their way to further optimize games and deliver a patch to enable this, this doesn't necessarily mean that every game that is going to be Pro Enhanced will be 4K 60 frames per second. The bigger GPU, more memory, so a 28% boost to that of RAM. We also have AI upscaling, which is PSSR. This is basically just a fancy way of saying there's FSR as well as DLSS. It's a form of upscaling to be able to get more performance out of increasing your resolution. DLSS and FSR has been around for a long time now on PCs, and it was only inevitable that eventually this would end up coming to consoles, and we're starting to see that here with the PS5 Pro, with PlayStation's own version of it being called PSSR. This is really good, like having a form of FSR or DLSS on a game console is great. I think that should be the standard looking at the next gen PlayStation 6 and the next Xbox. Now, when we were going from the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 4 Pro, there was the same sort of general consensus of this is a premium product, it's really only for people that want a bit of an extra edge when it comes to their console gaming. Is it really worth it? Well, it depends. Do you want to be able to have the option to pick between a fidelity mode or a performance mode? With the mid-gen refresh, that was a new thing for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One generation, it introduced graphics modes into console games, a very first. In my opinion, I definitely saw it being more of a worthy purchase picking up the PlayStation 4 Pro to actually have that option. What do I prefer? To be able to play my console games with a higher resolution but lower frame rate, or prioritize performance? PS5 Pro, though, is pretty much just giving you a third option to be able to combine both fidelity and improved performance together. Obviously, a lot of people are complaining about the price, and I think it's important to actually understand that PlayStation 5 Pro definitely does, from a hardware point of view, contain some pretty expensive components. Obviously, Sony have to market this console without sacrificing a great deal to be able to actually make up for what's going into the console itself. Still though, it is pretty hard to be able to build a PC that has the equivalent pieces of hardware within it for a similar price. This is kind of the big conversation at the moment. Are you just better to go ahead and build a PC? In my opinion, I would absolutely suggest doing that, because although it's going to cost you a little bit more to get a PC build that will provide a similar experience with the PlayStation 5 Pro, you're obviously going to get a lot more out of it. Not only just video games, general internet browsing, movies, music, editing. I mean, the sky's the limit when it comes to PC. It definitely is like the PlayStation 3 situation all over again from 2006, but like a lot worse. This is without a doubt the most expensive console to ever hit the market. Well, yes, sure, it is the most powerful console at this point. It definitely does come with a price tag. The crazier thing, though, is just the price difference. So a lot of people in the US are currently complaining about the crazy expensive price of the Pro, but for anyone that's outside the US, it is even more expensive. So like, if we look at Euro, yeah, people that are having to buy the console with euros, looking at Europe, they're spending $881 US. That's just for the console, by the way, not including the stand, not including the disk drive. Japanese yen, we're looking at $841 US. For pounds, I mean, it's even worse. It's $913 US. And looking at it, for me, in my country, like with New Zealand dollars, it is $1,138. That also doesn't include like tax or anything like that. And in my reaction video, I mentioned that I'd probably be looking at about $1,500 in order to get everything, the stand, the disk drive, and the console, which is ludicrous. However, though, you have to wonder, like with the price of components and what's going into these consoles, is the price range of consoles to that of PCs starting to blur, where consoles are starting to become super expensive due to how much it costs for the components that are going into them. The other thing, though, is Xbox, right? So Xbox has always been PlayStation's competition, and the old-fashioned saying is competition is a good thing, because without competition, that means that the one entity can pretty much just dictate the market however they want. Of course, if you have a competitor, they can then market their product a little bit lower, and naturally, most of the population is going to lean towards the cheaper option. This is why the Xbox 360 won during that generation, because the PlayStation 3 was astronomically more expensive than 360. 360 also came out a year beforehand, that's also important information, but it was still significantly cheaper. There is no word if Xbox are going to be doing a mid-gen refresh. There's also been talks throughout this generation too that looking towards the future, if Xbox will just become a publisher, if they will actually exit the console market. This would be the worst thing to happen, because it would allow Sony to be able to dictate the market. If gamers only have one choice for a premium gaming console, they have no other choice but to go with PlayStation, and PlayStation will be able to charge however much they want. I say this as a die-hard PlayStation fan, but we definitely need competition, and Xbox is healthy for this. Now, the disk drive and stand thing is insane, and you'll notice that in the montage of comments that I featured before, one of the main complaints there is the disk drive. This is called the PlayStation 5 Pro, meaning that it is the premium luxury option for console gaming. I do not believe that a console should have the Pro tag next to it if it doesn't include a piece of hardware that the less superior version includes. Going back to it, expensive components exist within the Pro console, so to remove the disk drive, this allows Sony to be able to market it at a cheaper price, even though it's not cheap. In some areas, you can understand why they didn't include a disk drive, but then for them not to include the stand, that's just straight fucking greed. This definitely worries me though, because to see Sony launching their premium mid-gen refresh console without a disk drive tells me that from the information we got recently from a games analyst forecasting the fact that looking towards video game media and that physical games are basically going to be non-existent in about 1 to 2 gens time, this is like the very first steps towards it. I would not be surprised if this basically confirms to us that looking at the PlayStation 6, it will launch without a disk drive, and that you'll have to buy a disk drive separately. Then looking at PlayStation 7, at that point, all physical media phased out, the console launches as a digital-only console. These corporations have been trying to get people to move into the digital space for a long time, where everything exclusively only exists on servers and you're required to be connected to the internet to purchase and download your games. Not so much on consoles, but more so looking at the PC space, there are cases of DRM, which is this online check to see if the person owns the license. This is an anti-piracy measure, but this comes with some issues because it means that games that you've purchased cannot be played offline. You need to be connected to the internet. Even if the game is a single-player offline-based game, you still need to be connected to the internet in order to play them. It scares the living shit out of me to think that video games are going to an all-digital future. I honestly hate it, and whether or not that makes me some kind of crusty old man yelling up into the clouds, I mean, so be it, but I love physical media so much, and to see this starting to be normalized is kind of gross. If we remember, Xbox tried to do this back in 2013 with the Xbox One, and in fact, PlayStation actually made fun of them for doing this by doing a genius marketing ad here for the PlayStation 4 to promote it, showing us that the only thing you need to do in order to be able to borrow a game from a friend is to just simply hand them the case with the disc inside. They can now play it. Oh, how they fall so fast, because 11 years onwards, they're now launching a console that doesn't come with a disk drive. This might be an incredibly old-fashioned take because a lot of media over the past 20 years has transferred very quickly into digital-only spaces, but you do get this certain feeling of that you don't actually 120% own the product you've purchased. If video games simply go into a digital-only space, this means that the games that you own are locked on a server somewhere, and you're effectively just buying a license in order to be able to access them. This is worst case scenario, of course, but let's just say, for instance, that the PlayStation Store would cease to exist. What then? What happens to the thousands of dollars worth of games that you've purchased over the years? So obviously the internet are going up in fists about the PS5 Pro, but does that speak for the entire population of gamers? Absolutely not. I think some people forget that there is a world outside of the realms of Reddit, YouTube, and Twitter. If we look at Amazon, the PlayStation 5 disc drive is currently the 10th most purchased product for the video game section of the store. And there's already reports that the disc drive's currently being sold out at a ton of retailers. Clearly, people are already preparing for the PlayStation 5 Pro. I was 100% ready to drop money on the PlayStation 5 Pro prior to the announcement. But now thinking about it, just considering the additional benefits you get here from playing on this system, looking at the upgrades, I just don't think that it actually justifies the price point. Looking at PS4 to PS4 Pro, having those options of being able to choose higher fidelity or performance in itself was enough to justify the cost. Keeping in mind too that PS4 Pro came out quite a bit cheaper than PS5 Pro, and you know, it also came with a disc tray. I say this though, and then we look at the two big reasons for like myself personally as to why I would purchase this console. The big one for a lot of people is Grand Theft Auto 6. Because this game is not launching on PC, this means that you're gonna have the best experience with GTA 6 playing on a PS5 Pro. The other one too is I can see that in 2026, when Kingdom Hearts 4 is coming out, it'll likely be Pro Enhanced, and even though it'll be 2 years away from the PlayStation 6, I'll likely end up caving. But for what little benefits you do get, considering that we're about probably 4 years away from a PlayStation 6, are you better to just invest that money into a PC or hold on to it to buy the PlayStation 6? I've already read a ton of thoughts and opinions on my reaction video, but if you have any other extended thoughts, be sure to leave them in the comment section here. However guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and check out my other social media platforms. Thank you as always to my wonderful patrons. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and we'll talk real soon.